Penal laws state that non-consensual sexual conduct is a crime, but they never tell us the definition for consent. Everyone engaging in sexual conduct and jurors who decide the fate of people who are accused of hideous sex crimes need to know the definition for consent. And if you're 18 or over, you could be selected as a juror. So this information is vital for you. I'm Joyce Short. I'm the author of Your Consent, The Key to Conquering Sexual Assault, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Consent Awareness Network. I'm also a 3-time sexual assault survivor, and I had zero opportunity to secure justice. And so I was determined to discover what the flaws are in our laws and fix them. Here's what jurors and the public need to know. Number 1, consent, the noun. In 2009, I began to research what the definition for consent actually is in penal law and even all the way back to canon law. You see, without a consistent and accurate definition, we can't enforce our constitutional right to equal protection under the law. And so I pieced together all of my findings, and you'll find parts of it in Nuremberg Code, General Data Protection Regulation, even in voting rights law. And all of these are strictly enforced throughout society today. The noun consent means a freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement by a person with the capacity to reason. To consent, the verb. The verb form to consent means to convey consent to another person, but you actually must have consent, freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement, and you must have the capacity to reason in order to convey consent to another person. Number 3, consent is individual. You'll often hear people say that consent is mutual, but in fact, consent is very individual. Because it's individual, you have the right to revoke consent at any point unilaterally. You don't need the other person's permission in order to revoke your consent. Number 4, influence. In accordance with the definition for the noun consent, if the accused used any form of malicious influence, such as force, fear, fraud, coercion, intimidation, surprise, or if they exploited the person's incapacity, then the accuser did not consent, even if they said yes, and even if they complied. They could have assented, which means agreement on the face of it. They could have acquiesced, which means agreement under duress. But neither assent nor acquiescence rises to the consent level of agreement. Number 5, intent. The accused always knows if they used malicious influence to secure the compliance of the accuser. So if you, as a juror, find that the evidence proves that they used malicious influence, then that person is guilty of any crime where consent is required. Number 6, character assault. Our laws will not allow jurors to base a guilty verdict on the character of the accused. Sentences for sex crimes are very harsh, and so it's likely that the defense will try to appeal the verdict. One cause of the appeal could be that the prosecution tainted the character of the accused. And if the appeals court feels that the appeal has merit, then they'll overturn the verdict. Likewise, the jury should not make a decision based on the character of the accuser. So what they wore, whether they had a previous sexual relationship with a person, whether they had a relationship with a person subsequent to the act. None of that should matter. 7, what determines guilt or innocence? As a juror, you should render a verdict based on whether the evidence proves that the accused used malicious influence or whether they failed to stop when the accuser revoked their consent. Number 8, so what about no means no and yes means yes? Keep in mind that modern science has taught us that victims can be too scared to say no, and they may say yes because they simply don't want to escalate violence. They could have been tricked or coerced into compliance. They could have been so scared that their brain chemistry takes over and causes tonic immobility. That's a condition that makes them freeze instead of fighting back or fleeing. So saying yes and complying doesn't always mean I consent. After the incident, victims will often try to normalize the defilement that they felt. Some will actually continue going along with a relationship with their attacker, even though inside they feel terribly emotionally torn by what took place. Trying to recover from illness, injury, or a crime is very normal behavior, and there's no one pathway that's appropriate for every single individual. Number 9, consent is always the same. In all cases where consent is critical, whether it be sexual assault, rape, sex trafficking, domestic violence, coercive control, stealthing, non-consensual distribution of sexual imagery, and more, consent is always a freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement by a person with the capacity to reason. Number 10, how can jurors reach a correct verdict? By focusing on what influence the accused used to compel compliance with the act, you'll be making the right consent-based decision in any sex crime case. In conclusion, by sharing this video with everyone in your network and sharing it with legislators who can turn your human right of consent into a civil right backed by penal law, you'll be helping to lock up sexual predators, you'll be fighting rape culture, and you'll be making the world a safer place. Thank you. I'm not intelligent.